Why the Memphis Grizzlies should still be feared. Over their more recent history, the Memphis Grizzlies have been building something special. They've done a really nice job at building their team through the draft, and we've really seen the results over the past couple seasons. But although the Grizzlies certainly were on the rise, in this previous season they had a pretty disappointing season. As although they played very well during the regular year, once it came down to playoff time, they ended up losing in the first round to the Los Angeles Lakers. But I'm here to tell you, although the Grizzlies didn't have a successful season last year, I still am very confident and excited about their future, and I still do think they should be a team that's feared in the NBA. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Ever since the Memphis Grizzlies were able to draft Ja Morant in the first round not too long ago, everything just changed for them. Although they did do a pretty nice job at bringing in some other nice young pieces besides Ja really put everything together, as right away during his rookie season he was playing at an extremely high level. And Ja wasn't one of those guys that were only going to put up great individual numbers, he was also a guy that played winning basketball, as not only did he have a really nice ability to score for himself, but he had a really good passing and playmaking ability and a great IQ out there to really make his teammates better and get them easy looks. And due to that, the Grizzlies were able to have a pretty successful season in year one for Ja, and it only got better from there. As not only did Ja Morant individually continue to get better, both in terms of his scoring ability and his passing and playmaking ability, but as Ja individually got better, his team and the Grizzlies also continued to get better. But a huge reason for why the Grizzlies were able to have so much success with Ja Morant and continue to have success going forward is due to the fact that they continued to add players to really complement Ja Morant's game, and that's something that they should be commended for, because we've seen this a ton in the past where franchises would find that franchise guy, but once they found that player they wouldn't do all that much after that. But when you look at the Memphis Grizzlies, they've added countless pieces that have proven to be real rotational players for them, and due to that the Grizzlies were able to have a ton of success. But a question that some of you may be having at this point is, why do I still think the Memphis Grizzlies should be feared even though they didn't have all that much success last year? Well, in my opinion, it comes down to a couple different factors, but the main factor has to be Ja Morant. As I said, ever since Ja made it to the NBA, he's consistently got better each and every season. But specifically looking at his season last year, there were definitely some distractions that not only kept him out of games, but even once it came down to playoff time, those distractions could have potentially still been on his mind and could have potentially been affecting his game overall. But going forward, not only in this next season, but also going forward in the future in general, I do think Ja is going to get past a lot of those issues that he was facing last season, and he's only going to continue to get better as the seasons do progress, but more specifically in this next season. And if Ja Morant is able to play better, you can just imagine how much better the rest of his teammates are going to be. Because whenever you talk about any organization, when your best player plays at a high level, the rest of your team is probably going to play better for it. But more specifically, when you talk about a guy in Ja Morant that does a great job at facilitating and finding his teammates, if he's playing at a very high level, it's just going to make it that much easier for everybody else to play at a very high level as well. So I certainly do think that a more focused and an improved Ja Morant is only going to help the Grizzlies not only during the regular season, but most importantly during the playoffs. Now, the next reason for why I think the Memphis Grizzlies should still be feared is due to the fact that they moved on from Dillon Brooks. Now, when you talk about Dillon Brooks as a player, I actually think he provides a ton. He's a 3-and-D type guy, but he's not only a 3-and-D type guy. He's a guy that has the capability to spot up for those catch and shoot 3-point jump shots, but as he proved last season, he's able to do a lot more and create for himself as well, as he did average around 17 points last season. But although I do think he provides a ton on the court in terms of his production both offensively and defensively, at the end of the day, I do think he was somewhat of a distraction during the regular season, but most importantly during the playoffs for the Grizzlies. And when you're talking about a team that needs to overcome the distractions that came alongside with Ja Morant last year, but also the distractions that came alongside with Dillon Brooks Brooks last season, you can just imagine how difficult it would be to really stay focused and perform at an extremely high level in the playoffs. So at the end of the day, I do actually think it was a good move to move on from Dillon Brooks. And in terms of the lost production they're losing with Dillon, I do think they will be able to either add in some new players maybe during the trade deadline to fill in that production, or even some of the players they already have on their team could step up and fill out that production that Dillon Brooks is leaving. I don't necessarily think it would be a huge fact for them. But the next factor for why I think the Grizzlies should actually still be feared in the Western Conference and in the NBA is due to their performance last season. Now, although it definitely was a really disappointing season last year for the Grizzlies as they lost in the first round to the Lakers, I do think at the same time it would be a really nice learning experience for a lot of their young players. It would be a learning experience for a guy in Ja Morant who, although is the best player on the team clearly, is still at the end of the day still very young and is still learning at the NBA level. So having that experience of losing that early on in the playoffs is definitely something that I think is a benefit to him, because now he knows what kind of adjustments he would need to make to improve his game individually and also help out his team as a whole. But even besides Ja, the rest of his teammates now also have that experience, as most of the players on this team are younger guys that are still learning as well. And even besides them, the coaching staff now has somewhat of a learning experience, and I do think although it was disappointing in the moment last year, at the end of the day it's going to help them in the long run. But another question that some of you may be wondering at this point is, what are my actual expectations for Memphis this upcoming season? Now, although I do think the Grizzlies should be feared in the Western Conference and in the NBA as a whole, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm expecting them to win a championship this season. I do definitely have higher expectations. I think the Grizzlies should be a top 5 or top 4 seed in the West. I do think they should make it further than the first round and maybe even further than the second round, but at the end of the day, I do think there are better teams than the Grizzlies in both the Eastern and the Western Conference. And at this point for the Grizzlies, as they are a pretty young team, you just want to see progression. You want to see the Grizzlies just continuously get better. You want to see them build off what they were able to do a couple seasons ago, and although last year wasn't a great year, I do fully expect the Grizzlies to have a significantly better season this year. Not only make the playoffs, but make it past the first round, and then who knows where they can go from there. But even though I don't necessarily expect the Grizzlies to be a real championship contender this upcoming season, I do definitely think they're headed in that direction. I think they're going to be somewhat competitive in the Western Conference in the playoffs this upcoming year, but as I said before, I do think there are a couple teams that I consider to be a little bit better than the Grizzlies right now, but as the Grizzlies are still a very young team, a lot of their guys are only going to get better. Ja Morant, of course, is only going to get better, and the Grizzlies organization has proven in the past that they're fully invested in this team and they're going to do whatever they can to make this team better. So I fully expect them to make trades during the trade deadline, bring in some players in the draft, bring in some players via free agency, and overall when we look at this team in the next 3 seasons, I think they're going to be significantly improved from where they are today. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening with this Memphis Grizzlies team. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the NBA should still fear the Memphis Grizzlies, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.